Hola, everyone! Today we're tackling a common puzzle for those learning Spanish, the pronunciation of B and V. Many find these letters tricky because they sound almost the same in Spanish. But don't worry, it's not as confusing as it seems. By the end of this essay, you'll be able to pronounce B and V like a true native speaker. We'll break down the pronunciation, give you handy tips, and even delve into the history behind this linguistic quirk. Get ready to impress your Spanish-speaking friends with your newfound pronunciation skills. Vamos! So, let's unlock the secrets of the Spanish B and V. The first step to mastering the Spanish B and V is understanding the sound itself. Both letters represent a bilabial sound. This means you use both your lips to make the sound, similar to the English B. However, the Spanish B and V are softer than the English B, especially in the middle of words. Think of it as a gentle push of air between your lips, rather than a hard stop. This soft, almost whispery sound might seem subtle at first, but it's what gives Spanish its characteristic flow and musicality. Now that you know the sound, let's move on to some practical tips for perfect pronunciation. Ready to train your tongue? Let's dive into some essential tips and tricks to master the Spanish B and V sounds. Here are some helpful tips for nailing the Spanish B and V sounds, which can be tricky for non-native speakers. 1. Lip positioning. Lightly bring your lips together, as if you're about to say B. This is crucial because the B and V sounds in Spanish are very similar. Don't press them too tightly though. The goal is to create a gentle closure, not a hard stop. The key is to create a slight resistance for the air to pass through. This subtle resistance helps in forming the correct sound. 2. Airflow. Gently exhale as you pronounce the B or V sound. This gentle exhalation is what gives the sound its characteristic softness. The air should flow smoothly between your lips, creating a soft, almost breathy sound. This is different from the harder B sound in English. 3. Listen and repeat. One of the best ways to improve your pronunciation is to listen to native speakers. Pay close attention to their mouth movements and the way they form the sounds. Pay attention to how they pronounce B and V in different words and contexts. Notice the subtle differences and try to mimic them. Then try imitating their pronunciation. Remember, practice makes perfect. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel. So, keep at it and soon you'll be pronouncing B and V like a native. You might be wondering, if B and V sound the same, how do I know which letter to use? This is a common question for Spanish learners, and it's understandable why it can be confusing. While the pronunciation is nearly identical, the context will always tell you which letter is correct in written Spanish. It's all about understanding the words and their meanings. Think of it this way. The letters B and V are like two actors sharing the same role in a play. They might look similar and sound the same, but they each have their own unique parts to play. They might sound alike, but they each have their own lines and cues. Just like actors, B and V have specific places where they belong in the script of the Spanish language. For example, you'll always use B in words like bebé, to drink, and bonito, beautiful. These words have their own distinct meanings and uses. And you'll always use V in words like vivir, to live, and verde, green. Again, these words are unique and have their own specific contexts. So don't stress too much about choosing the right letter when speaking. The key is to focus on the context and meaning of the words you are using. Focus on mastering the sound, and the spelling will become clearer with practice. Over time, as you become more familiar with the language, you'll naturally start to recognize when to use B and when to use V. Practice makes perfect, and soon enough it will become second nature. Now it's time to put your knowledge into practice. Learning a new language is not just about memorizing vocabulary and grammar rules. It's about using what you've learned in real-life situations. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become. So let's dive into some essential words and phrases that will help you master the Spanish B and V sounds. Here are some common words and phrases to help you master the Spanish B and V. Let's start with words that contain the letter B. For example, baby, bueno, good, hablar, to speak. These words are not only common but also very useful in everyday conversations. Next, we have biblioteca, library, beber, to drink. These words will come in handy whether you're studying, traveling, or just going about your daily life. Now let's move on to words with the letter V. For instance, vivir, to live, verde, green, viajar, to travel, verdad, truth, volver, to return. These words are equally important and will enrich your vocabulary. Let's look at some useful phrases. For example, buenos dias, good morning. This is a great way to start your day and greet people warmly. Another essential phrase is, ¿Cómo estás? How are you? This is a common way to ask someone about their well-being and start a conversation. You might also want to use, La vida es bella. Life is beautiful. This phrase can be used to express your appreciation for the beauty of life and the world around you. If you're planning a trip, you can say, Voy a viajar a España. I'm going to travel to Spain. This phrase is perfect for sharing your travel plans with others. And if you love reading, you might say, El libro es muy bueno. The book is very good. This is a great way to share your thoughts about a book you enjoyed. Practice saying these words and phrases out loud, paying close attention to your B and V sounds. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. They are part of the learning process. You can even record yourself to track your progress. Listening to your recordings will help you identify areas for improvement and celebrate your successes. Keep practicing, and soon you'll be speaking Spanish with confidence and ease. Ever wondered why Spanish has this unique pronunciation quirk? The answer lies in the history of the language. In the early days of Spanish, the letters B and V were pronounced differently, just like in English. However, over time, their pronunciation began to merge, particularly in certain regions of Spain. This shift in pronunciation became so widespread that by the 18th century, the Royal Spanish Academy, the official authority on the Spanish language, officially recognized the single pronunciation for B and V. So this linguistic quirk is a fascinating example of how languages evolve and adapt over time. Mastering the Spanish B and V might seem like a small detail, but it can make a big difference in your fluency and confidence. Remember, practice is key. Keep listening to native speakers, repeating words and phrases, and soon you'll be pronouncing B and V like a pro. Don't be afraid to experiment and have fun with the language. Hasta la próxima.